Hi, so today I'm going to be talking about tensions between Parliament and King Charles I, gradually rising and rising over the years up until in 1642, Civil War broke out, which would end up with the execution of Charles I, and that is the last king and the first king to be executed, but the last king also to be executed. No other monarch has had the same fate. So yeah, let's get started. I'm going to be talking about three things. First of all, the three resolutions, then the Grand Remonstrance, and then the 19 propositions. So, the three resolutions. This happened in 1629, and these resolutions passed by Parliament denounced Arminianism, which was a religion favored by the monarch. Now, they said anyone bringing in popery, so aligning themselves with the Catholic Church, Roman Catholic Church, or Arminianism, should be, and I quote, accounted a capital enemy of the king and the kingdom. Now, they say that if you believed in Catholic practices or Arminianism, which was Catholic leaning, you were going against England. Now, the king favored England. So that was kind of a huge problem. You know, if you support the religion the king supports, you're going against the country. Now, the king obviously didn't like that. MPs also, after they published it, they became kind of paranoid. They were fully convinced that the king, because of this, was going to dissolve parliament and just attempt to rule without it, which he did later on, the 11 years rule. But no, this happened. This is not just yet. So the MPs feared that because if Charles were to close Parliament, they couldn't protest because you couldn't protest in the 17th. You couldn't protest in the 17th century. So, well, they were in a meeting of Parliament with Charles was present, and he asked the Speaker to adjourn Parliament to adjourn the session. So the group of MPs, one of my favorite moments of history. The Speaker was allowed to get up and say it because the Speaker kind of had to obey the King. And the group of MPs physically tied the Speaker to the chair to prevent him from saying anything, because the Speaker had to speak standing up. So by tying the Speaker to the chair, he couldn't really give the notice. So they also locked the doors of the Commons and just protested. They spoke their grievances and said to the King, "Dude, don't do this." The king went to close Parliament for 11 years until 1640, which he needed again after attacks. But yeah, and that is the three resolutions. Then we have the Grand Remonstrance. So these, there was a list of grievances that were presented by the king's government in church and state. These ideas were taken up by John Pym in 1641, and I'm going to quote something. This is a quote from the Grand Remonstrance that says, quote, "Give more life and power to the dutiful and loyal counsels and endeavours of your parliament." And what this Grand Remonstrance really said was that all the misdeeds of the reign and everything that was going wrong with it was not because of the king, but because of popish advisors. So people persuading the king to do more popish stuff, like I said, and popish, like I said before, people who believe in the Roman Catholic Church. So papal supremacy, popist. I mean, literally says malicious designs of the popish party. And by popish party, it means there weren't political parties back then, but there were factions, and it's the popish faction. And they wanted a partial reform of the church because, popish. Not a full-on generation reformation like happened in the 1530s, but more like a smaller one. Well, they said that the king should employ councillors as Parliament may have cause to confide in. So Parliament be like, so his advice. I mean, Parliament has to be there with people who actually support what the people want, you know. So the MPs have to be for the people, and I don't know. I mean, they have to be for the people, but because of this, they need to support the councillors the king has. So let me just rephrase that in case I've messed it up. So the king has councillors, and these councillors have to be backed by Parliament. That's what the Grand Remonstrance is saying. And the Grand Remonstrance also said that Parliament has to be supported by the people, jump in, like he said that. But that's not that important. What's important is that the king's councillors have to be backed by Parliament, which in turn reflect the views of the people. Anyway, so the House of Commons was presented as a partisan faith. The House of Lords was Catholic, the House of Commons wasn't. And although Cromwell himself, he said later on in his life, after the Civil War, that if the Grand Remonstrance had not been passed, he would have just packed his bags, sold everything he had, and gone to America. If only he had done that. I do not like Oliver Cromwell. Anyway, the king, he did not like this because it was basically saying, change your religion, change your ministers, change your councillors. So, there was any problem, the best thing to do for a monarch was ignore it. So he did. But Parliament said, oh, you were ignoring us. Oh, is that right? So they printed the Grand Remonstrance out and just put it everywhere. On the walls of churches, on the walls of everywhere. And they just rallied support. So the day before Christmas Eve, so Christmas Eve, the 23rd of December, he formally acknowledged the remonstrance by rejecting it, but he had conciliatory tones. So he wasn't like, I am not going to accept this. No. It was more, well, I acknowledge the remonstrance and I get what you guys are saying, but I can't just improve my entire government like this. So, kind of apologizing, kind of conciliatory, like I said. And that is a Grand Remonstrance. So it was Parliament actively seeking change in the king's councillors, actively seeking it. And it's kind of touching with religion too. And then the final act led to civil war. This is literally the final thing that led to it. And it's the 19 propositions, and it's the final thing I'm going to talk about. So, these are passed in June 1642, literally the month even. I think it was even the month that war was declared. But it was just right about, it was the thing that led to the war, like straight up led to the war. Well, so you know how in the Grand Remonstrance I said that the councillors have to be approved by Parliament. Well, 19 propositions really said that important government positions, including councillors, had to be assigned to members of the Privy Council. Not just any random people, no, Privy Council. And, in turn, the Privy Council had to be chosen by Parliament, or approved by Parliament. So just Parliament had the final say. It's literally another way to say the Grand Remonstrance. Same thing, except the religious part. Well, a bit, but not so much. Just furthering the power of Parliament. And they said, this is actually really smart, that important decisions should not be made by a single person. Well, in previous reigns, they had, under Henry VIII, they had Wolsey and Cromwell. Under Elizabeth, not so much, but William Cecil, Leicester, they couldn't have that again. So they thought state matters, they have to be discussed by the council, and they should be debated, and the council has to be made up of a minimum of 15 people and a maximum of 25. So it has to be controlled and again approved by Parliament. That's the important part. Also, the most important members of Privy Council have to be extremely approved by Parliament. It can't be 50-50. If they don't gather enough support, they could still potentially be members of the Privy Council, but they can have such high ranking positions, I guess. Also, and I guess it's a whole bunch of propositions, but again, the name is the 19 propositions, so you can kind of get the idea. So it also said that the marriage of the king's children had to be approved by Parliament. The education of the king's children had to be approved by Parliament. Literally, like, it's just Parliament controlling the future monarchs. That's what they wanted to do, increasing their own power. It also said that all papists should be removed from government and the children should be raised as Protestants. Also, anything that changes in the church has to be approved by Parliament. Members of the militia, chosen by the House of Commons. Parliament, they can be in the houses. They can be in a random village somewhere. It doesn't matter. Parliament can be based wherever Parliament wants. Not where the king wants, no, what Parliament wants. Privy councillors and judges have to take this oath that maintain the Petition of Right. A bit of quick background on the Petition of Right is just the predecessor to the Bill of Rights is human rights kind of thing, building on the Magna Carta. Anyway, if they wanted to keep the jobs, judges and officers had to be appointed by Parliament and approved by them. They could prosecute delinquents who fled the country. They if the king wanted to pass a royal pardon, this has to be approved by Parliament. You get where this is going. It's literally everything the king does has to be approved by Parliament. And there was a castle or a fort that needed a captain, someone to command it. That person had to be approved by Parliament. There cannot be a standing army. If the army is there, it can only be because of possible rebellion or possible invasion. You can't have a random army there. Parliament has to be not filtered, but it has to be the best it could possibly be. So some members of the House of Commons should be eliminated. Not like actually killing them, but just removing them from the House of Commons. Parliament has to make sure the king makes an alliance with Protestant countries. Say, I don't know, Germany. And anyone, because the king also has a say in who goes to Parliament, so anyone going to Parliament has to have the previous approval of those already in Parliament, so it can't just be the king's friends. Charles, he received these 19 propositions, which I think I've named all of them. Yeah, I have. Yeah, I think I've mentioned 19, I may be wrong though, but Charles said, "Oh, look, these are some beautifully written propositions. Yeah, beautiful. Really good. I appreciate the effort. I'm going to reject all of them, like I did with the 3 resolutions, like I did with the God Remonstrance. Yeah, I don't care, I'm going to reject all of them," which he did. And granted Parliament kind of a coordinate power in government, but she's like, yeah, you guys can rule alongside me, it's fine. You're not going to be able to do anything other than what you're doing now, but it is what it is. And not long after, Civil War broke out, so that is that. And yeah, that's it. That is the tensions, like 3 events that shows tensions rising between Parliament and the king. And it's literally Parliament just wanting more power and trying to root out any elements of Catholicism and just trying to bring in Protestantism. and controlling the king's children, parliament, and supremacy. I mean, that's literally what led to the Civil War. It's just king versus parliament, roundheads versus cavaliers. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. I hope you liked it. I hope you found it interesting. And yeah, thank you for watching. Bye.